just need to wake up.
I think it's sprained my groin. Do chicks have groins?
Choose or die. Meat.
No, Choose or Die isn't a film about picking which shitty Netflix original you want to make you suffer, but instead the kind of low-quality film you put on in the background while banging, which means it's the perfect kind of film for me to needlessly pick apart. Recognisable actor? Check. Low rating? Check. Absolutely nobody talking about on the internet leading to a lack of views, since who the fuck would want to watch a video on a film nobody cares about? Check. The film starts with a title card showing this mysterious red light and the name Anton, and I'm immediately intrigued. What is this mysterious light and who is Anton? What's so important about Anton that they get their own title card? The title then glitches out of existence and we get another title card for Stigma Films. Oh, that wasn't the introduction of a character, but instead a mysterious looking company with an incredibly forgettable name, because it's the name of that really pretentious art student that would wear a Hello Kitty bag to seem quirky, but we all knew he was just peacocking so he could get laid. Okay, time to do some research on the two companies, and it's just what I thought I'd find. Like a fart in a wind tunnel, there is zero trace of Choose or Die on Anton's website, and like my last victim, zero trace of Stigma Films except a dead Twitter page. This is our main character Kayla, and we're immediately told she isn't special, which to anyone who's seen a film with their brain turned on knows it means she is actually special. People who get bullied in films always go on to do great things, probably because most films are written by us losers that got bullied at an early age, so we have to create these fantasy worlds where we're actually the chosen ones. Bullies aren't right in these films because they're too busy getting laid and earning lots of money exploiting workers. Then to double down on the lack of subtlety, we get a look at the clearly framed company name, which is practically shouting hidden meaning. Firstly, the design does not fit in with the homogenized corporate world where everything must look identical and ball-achingly simplistic. But secondly, nobody would call their company Kismet because it has too much character. Companies come in a few different variations, those being a few random letters that supposedly mean something to someone, a name that tells you exactly what it is so morons don't walk into Ron's scaffolding company looking for a sandwich, or a made-up name that doesn't sound too foreign, because America is too racist of a country for people to trust a company that starts with a hissing sound. Kismet is the Islamic word for destiny, because of course it is. Kayla is destined for great things. She then meets up with Asa Butterfield, who I thought was going to be the main character, but turns out he's only on a third of the film. Although I don't really know why I'm surprised that the marketing was deceptive. After all, who would want to watch a film where the lead actor doesn't even have a photo when you search him on Google? But anyway, Otis is a video game developer and a fan of Run DMC, which for some fucking reason is important. He also buys random shit from house clearance, which is a very contrived way of getting to the cursed video game. What are the chances that the person who finds this game that is so old it's on tape has anything that can play it? The only people who can play it would be old men stuck in the past saying things were better in the old days, by which they mean less foreigners. They notice there's a prize for winning the game, which again is another very contrived reason for them wanting to play it. Why can't they just be interested in 80s video games? Why does there need to be these workarounds that require me to suspend so much disbelief already?
This is Robert Englund.
Okay, so this is where I went down a weird rabbit hole. Robert Englund is the actor who used to play Freddy Krueger, but most would probably know him as that guy with no eyes who briefly shows up in Stranger Things Season 4 because his career isn't going as well as he thought it would be. For some reason he is talking with an English accent, even though everybody else is speaking with an American accent. But Robert Englund is the only American actor, and everybody else is English, including the filmmakers and even this guy who can't smile like a normal person. We then see a cop car with 911 on it, which backs up this being America. But do you see how English this looks? The film was shot in London, which is why it looks like I'm about to watch an episode of Benefits Britain. Kayla gets home to her 2-bedroom flat, which she shares with her crack-addled mother. Kayla is continuing to look for more jobs, while also working nights, cleaning up some sort of backrooms-like office belonging to the people that are going to evict her. The mother spends all of her time listening to a toy bear with a voice recording of her dead son on it, and yammering about the rats in the walls. Things are not going well, living on the dole. How can we make this scene better? Kayla comes home to her flat, she gets a bottle of water out the fridge, and we use this action to show the eviction notice and the photos of Kayla with a young boy that we can assume is her brother. Kayla gets out some medicine, then brings it over to her clearly high mum. We don't need to show the crack pipe because it's not necessary for the audience to know which specific drug she's high on. You just need to know she's higher than the egos of the people who made this film when they found out Netflix was tricked into owning it. We then get the main character to do something very tricky. Act. She just seems so bored in this scene, and if the main character doesn't even give a shit, why should I? Next, I would get a toy bear that doesn't look like it was attacked with acid. What kind of child would want this tattered thing? It looks like it was owned by a Victorian toddler that burned to death in an orphanage fire, by which I mean a cliched horror object. I'd also remove the audio recording of the obviously dead child because it's not necessary. Adults don't usually cuddle a bear, but the absence of the kid and her being absolutely cracked out is enough of an indication that he's dead. Certainly don't need an in-your-face recording that heavily implies he died in a pool, because what kind of mother would want to constantly constant reminder of how her kid died, which now if I think about it is low-key racist. A single black mum hooked on crack and had a black son that was a bad swimmer. Nice job, incredibly white-named filmmakers. Finally, I'd remove the dialogue about the rats in the wall because all I hear is the filmmakers nudging me going, huh? I wonder if that's going to come up later. I'd just have a rat in the room that then goes into the wall because that shows the poor conditions they're living in and isn't immediately obvious it's a setup. Let's just fast forward for a bit. Nothing happening, generic transition, conversation about them getting paid night after night to clean a completely empty office floor for some fucking reason, then a foreboding push into the company logo that I guess they want to make even more obvious that it's vaguely relevant. Kayla is now at a diner and it's finally time for some spooks. The game knows she's trying to cut out sugar and caffeine. It's fucking evil. After the game pranks her, she briefly travels to another realm where her dead brother is standing ominously, and then we're back to pranking. The waitress starts breaking loads of glasses, and at this point, when the game brings up another choice, you'd probably expect it to try and fuck with you again. Should she break more or clean up? That's the final two choices in this segment, and for the introduction to the horror, it's pretty weak. The game obviously messes with her, and clean up means the waitress kneels into the glass and starts gobbling it up, making more of a mess. What's the point of having a choice when the game just does whatever the fuck it wants? Like, what would break some more lead to? Would she throw glasses at Kayla? Would she start breaking her bones? Would she do some breakdancing on the broken glass? Who the fuck knows? Plus, there's zero consequences to the person playing the game, as all that happens is she just sits there looking as empty-headed as a lobotomized hamster. The carousel trap from Saw 6 is a good example of what the film should have done. Instead of choices that can be misconstrued into nonsense, we get the most simplistic premise. There's 6 people on a carousel and you can save 2 of them. These are people that choose a no, so there's an attachment to the characters instead of it just being some random woman that for some reason has a name in the credits that isn't just waitress. Though the choices most importantly have consequences, because if you save someone, you're killing someone else. The Saw franchise isn't great, but this scene is incredibly intense, even when watching a YouTube upload from 2010 that's in 240p quality and compressed so hard I could be watching Love Island and not even realise it.
I'm pregnant!
No, she's not! She's lying! She's fucking lying!
It's intense because we know the rules and then we're watching characters reacting to the situation. We get people lying about needing to look after sick parents so they can get saved, but the others call them out on their bullshit in hopes it saves them, while the main character is crying because he doesn't know what to do. Kayla, on the other hand, doesn't even fucking react. Well, actually, she does stand up very slowly.
Stop!
Nice one, Kayla. That's bound to snap her right out of it.
Help her, we have to help
I don't even know what to say about this. I'm just too baffled. Nothing like this ever happens again, and I'm not sure what the purpose of it is, because she just pushes straight past him like he's a security guard on Black Friday. What was the point of this character existing? The only thing I can think of was he was trying to stop the next shot that goes on for a grueling 12 seconds that I'm going to show in full, risking YouTube doing me for copyright infringement.
Please, please stop!
It's like I'm watching porno acting or a clip from a Neil Breen film. Instead of lazily trying to pull her hands out of her mouth, she should have treated her like a child that's trying to eat all of the raw cooking ingredients. Then the game has the cheek to say, worthy player.
No. I do like milk. Yes.
The next day we get some conversations about the dead child and how he died and what happened to the place where he died. Just in case you didn't know, the child died. We literally see a ghost, yet we still need to be told that the kid's dead. Then we meet Lance, whose only purpose in the film is to be unlikable. Let's do a quick summary of the scene. Lance talks about supplying drugs to Kayla's mum. He brings up the fact Kayla can't get another job. He then talks about them being evicted. Notice any problems with this? There's no new information given. It's just stuff that we've already established, so that renders this scene completely pointless, except to show us who Lance is, but why not give him dialogue that adds to the story? Wait, it's a bad film, that's why. Kayla is back at work at the, for some reason, empty office building when she gets a call from her mum, who's talking about rats. Whoa, dolly zoom! They're pulling out all the stops for this segment. It's probably to make up for the most boring set I've ever seen, mixed with the most lackluster of scares. A computer appears from out of nowhere and it shows a game where a rat is trying to eat Kayla's mum, which has come as a big surprise that nobody saw coming. The game then tricks our main character into controlling the rat, which again, absolutely nobody could have saw coming. The game has consistently fucked with her at this point, so you would have thought a little bit of thinking thinking would have happened before she did anything. Eventually, the rat gets to the bedroom door and our main character has a choice of charge or chew, which again isn't a choice. It's like the Telltale games where they say your choices matter, even though you always end up at the exact same points of the story with the smallest of variations. Pick which character you want to save, even though they'll die at the exact same point in the storyline. Yippee! My choices changed a few bits of dialogue that had little bearing on the plot.
You're about the fucking window!
This is a joke, isn't it? Why did someone think her running towards the camera like, ah, was a good thing to put in the scene?
Oh, what misery this choice is. But surely Cyberpunk is fixed by now. Why? Why would you make me choose between two things that would bring me great suffering in different ways that would ultimately change me? What horror to pick between being bored to tears or having to slog through a frame rate of 2. Oh. This game's so boring.
Kayla goes back home to see the carnage that happened in her house, and this just leaves me with more questions. Was it a massive rat or loads of rats? Because judging by this hole in the middle of the door, it must have been one from Dark Souls. Then did the rat write chew on the door, or does the game just make it appear? But what for? What purpose does writing chew on the door have? Same goes for the word meat, which for some reason is supposed to be this scary thing, even though when it's said it comes off comical. I laughed when that happened because it was fucking stupid, then laughed again when the film did a loud music sting on this shot. I then laughed again when meat was used as a fucking jump scare to introduce Lance into the scene.
Meat.
His whole purpose in this scene is to be creepy. He has nothing to do with anything, but he keeps just showing up to remind us he exists, like the creepy relative who'll show up to parties uninvited and stares too long at baby pictures. Kayla meets up with Otis again and we find out the video game is more mysterious than we thought. Turns out there's nothing on the internet about Cursor, which of course not. If someone else was posting about an actually cursed video game, then it would be the most well-known story in existence because it's an actual curse. Everyone in the world knows Bigfoot, yet he doesn't even exist. And if you think he does, I'm sorry to tell you this, but your parents are siblings. If this game isn't usually cursed, then probably the reason why there's nothing online about it is because it looks as boring as reading a book written by a sheltered 4-year-old. Otis starts talking about the game's code and they come to the conclusion that they need to wait for the game to boot up so they can find out more information from it. So you know what that means?
Dialogue scene.
So in my game, if you want to cheat, it's going to cost you.
How old are these writers? Brushing past the fact that it's strikingly obvious this will be reincorporated, games don't use cheat codes anymore because that means extra coding. Plus you're missing out on those microtransactions, giving away those fun skins for free.
I like that you made me look like a superhero.
Well, gotta make sure you use your powers wisely.
Quick message to the writers. Stop forcing shit in like you're the last virgin on prom night. We get it, she's special. We didn't need the fucking knockoff Spider-Man speech.
Hey, this is our song. This is our song.
We don't have a song.
Wait, what do you mean?
Listen, writing is tricky, especially when it's hard times. You just want to take the money and run. But if you want to be one of the kings, you got to be tougher than ever because it's like that and that's the way it is. Level 3 starts and who's Isaac? Oh right, I see what's happened here. Asa Butterfield is basically playing the same character from Sex Education, and because this film is about as dull as a vegan barbecue, I'm desperately trying to think of things I quite enjoy to stave off those incessant thoughts of mine that say I'm somehow less talented than the 3 brain cells that managed to swindle Netflix. I think I'll keep calling him Otis, just so I can forget this character a bit quicker. The game starts up and Otis seems shocked that the game knows what he's saying, which is weird because surely Kayla would have told him. They were sitting around waiting for the game to start long enough to get Chinese food and have a food fight, but yeah, I guess they didn't want to talk about the game with supernatural powers that a few hours ago put her mum in hospital. If they did that, we could skip this scene where the basic rules of the game are being established for the second time. The film is only an hour and 20 minutes long, and yet we're still managing to get scenes repeated. Our 2 characters are confronted with 2 doors, and they have to choose which one to go through. Fortunately, the blue door has a child behind it that whispers die, making it very obvious which door to go through. Kayla and Otis advance into the dimly lit corridors and proceed down the path, with each step taking them deeper into the crimson light. The walls, bumped and eroded, bounce the screams of the trapped around every corner and into every crevice. A weak voice then emanates from the depths, whispering... What should he be whispering? Oh, I know what would leave the audience absolutely trembling.
I wanna go swimming.
Kayla then starts to chase the ghost of her little brother, which leads her to a swimming pool full of scary lightning smoke. The film then manages to devolve into cliche horror, where the characters are separated in smoke while the silhouette of a ghostly child runs around in the background giggling. I've never understood why characters in this sort of situation don't use the arm flailing fighting technique, where you just look like you're having a mental breakdown, because then you cover all areas of attack and it would stop creepy ghost children jumping on you. It works when I have young cousins around that want to play, so why wouldn't it work here? We eventually get to the choice section where Kayla must save either Otis or her brother, which as choices go is pretty lame. Even though the brother has been brought up many times, I know absolutely nothing about him because every conversation sounds like, oh, by the way, my brother drowned and that's all I have to say. Kayla picks to save Otis, and so when this level ends, absolutely nothing has changed. She used to blame herself for causing the drowning because she looked away for a second, which is a bit of a drowning cliche, and now she kills the ghost of her brother, so again, blames herself for causing his death. It's an incredibly redundant scene that if you cut it out, nobody would even notice. Plus it's also boring because we watched an unlikable character choose between two characters we know fuck all about. Then she has a fight with a child. I wonder who'd win that one. But obviously it's supposed to be more of a challenge because of the emotional aspect, but again, we know nothing about their relationship, so for all we know, they might have hated each other. Maybe the kid wasn't even possessed and he'd do shit like this all of the time. He could have been the type of kid who'd piss in your drink or knee you in the balls, or while you're walking they say, hey, you've dropped your gay card, and because you weren't really concentrating you look down, which makes them laugh. In which case, I'm glad he's dead because that shit's homophobic. Ugh! Oh, by the way, that was my little brother who was shot to death by the police because he enjoyed running around in the shadows while giggling. The police just thought he was black. This is a joke and a callback to when I said the film was low-key racist. That was a joke about the film holding your hand and assuming you're an idiot that doesn't know what the fuck is going on. Kayla then explains to Otis what happened and what it means. Our characters get in the car and start travelling to the source of the phone line that was on the game cover. It shows this journey like a video game, which is better than the boring drone shot of place, drone shot of city, then finally drone shot of them in a different place. It's just inconsistent because of all the times the film has looked like a video game, it's been during the horror sequences, and even then it's just been on a screen instead, which I guess you could say symbolises the line between the world and the game is starting to be blurred now that they're trying to cheat their way out of playing as intended. But then again, the film is written so poorly that any attempt to add greater meaning to anything feels more pointless than adding meaning to my morning poo, since it's rather unlikely it's intended. Plus, it never does anything like this again, which just reinforces the idea that the filmmakers just thought this was a more interesting transition that had no metaphorical meaning behind it, and they chunked it in so people who are pounding away with it in the background pause for a second and go, oh, that's pretty cool. We now arrive at the abandoned building segment of this horror film. They find the phone registered to the game, which of course is just sitting in an empty room with a load of conspicuous wires sticking out of it.
Hey. Power cables.
This is an example of bad writing, where absolutely nothing of worth is said and all the character does is say what you can already see. Here's another example from the remake of Utopia. See how it's just pointless and doesn't add anything unless you're currently balls deep and not looking at the screen? Our two characters follow the power cables into this room where obviously the game was made, and they come across a VHS tape with abnormally high quality that fortunately tells them everything they need to know in a big old exposition dump. These symbols affect reality. The curse has been used for generations to make people suffer. When the curse suffer, the cursor benefits. We made a game using the curse. This is the first beta test of cursor. Now I'm going to show you how I, the cursor, benefit from this random curse guy playing the game, even though I just told you. And we're going to show you the rules of the game again for the third time because we, the filmmakers, are just assuming you haven't been listening. This section raises a lot more questions than it answers, like how did the creator know Kayla was going to get the game and know what kind of levels to make? Why even make a game? If curses have been around for generations, then stupid peasants were able to make them, which means it must be quite easy to do, or at least a lot easier than making a game using a whole new coding language. Games are difficult to make now, let alone in the 80s when technology was so shit you could hear it screaming in agony. Also, if the curse benefits the cursor, what kind of benefits could have come from the previous levels? When the waitress was breaking glasses, was the cursor receiving a load of free glasses? I guess that's a benefit if you had your own restaurant and was in need for some. But what about the choice in level 3? She chose Otis, so does that mean the cursor receives an Otis? Or a ghost child? Which doesn't sound like a benefit at all because they're both annoying. But then, if you're making a game that ultimately benefits you, why would you bother giving them a choice in the first place? Couldn't you just make a Jumanji type game? But instead of a stampede, you just lose all of your benefits money and become crack addicts, making the cursor richer and more resistant to crack like a perk from Fallout? Okay, this is just hurting my head. Get the tape out now. It's time for level 4, and the film reincorporates Otis's idea about cheating hurting the player, and Kayla is given the choice of rewinding or fast forwarding, which leads to this. This is a joke, right? It looks like projectile vomit you'd get in a comedy film, and then at this point here, looks like he's doing some extreme dick sucking. I don't get how this is different from the previous levels though, because it's supposed to be a punishment for cheating. Seems like the same risk of consequences as on the last one, since Otis's life is in danger. But the worst part of this is it's level 4, and again there hasn't been a real choice yet in the film Choose or Die. She starts fast forwarding, then partway through starts rewinding, then fast forwards again because I guess the choice of rewinding doesn't work, and she just wanted to make mine and Otis's suffering last longer. I guess that's the consequences from cheating, but it's hard to say because maybe this is just the game pranking us again. As Otis lays in a pool of his own blood and the tape from a VHS, he says a few last touching words.
I totally turned you on to run DMC.
That's what we were waiting for! All those times Run DMC was brought up was for this moment right here. All of the awkwardly forced in bits of dialogue was for this fake emotion between two characters that have less chemistry than a homeopathic hospital.
You doing this because you want to help me or you want to get with me?
Both.
This was said 11 minutes before he died because the filmmakers realised they haven't shown any signs of attraction, like a 14-year-old me with my crush. So they just said, fuck it, let's just tell the audience instead of showing them. The game then tells Kayla she needs to go beat the boss, giving her the coordinates and bringing us to the end of this level. Boy, do I love playing a bit of Raid Shadow Legends. This game was destined for me.
But that's not even a choice.
Yeah, that's fine. I don't get sponsored by him. I'm bored of the game now anyway. While Kayla's on the way to the boss fight, she gets a call from Lance. That's it. That's all you need to know about that. Just remember he exists and Kayla doesn't like him. She arrives at this nice house with a swimming pool and confronts this man at the dinner table who we find out is another player in the game. He says he woke it up after 2 levels and it made him make copies. You would have thought that a sentient game bent on spreading to more people would want to be in a more current format rather than on tape. Turn it into a mobile game and it'll fit right in with the dopamine exploiting parasites that exist already.
And that's not fair. Aren't guys like me allowed to be the fucking hero anymore?
Is that a race thing? I guess Kayla is supposed to represent the modern protagonist, that being a black woman, but the whole film seems a bit against it because it's totally living in the past. Old technology, old knowledge of gaming, old music references, old pop culture actors, old sounding dialogue.
You want to be the hero? Prove yourself worthy.
Why is this the last level in Choose or Die? A fight against some random old man that has next to nothing to do with the plot? Well, I have a theory about this, and for it to all make sense, we need to go back to the beginning. The film didn't actually start with Kayla, but instead with this family. The mum and son are having an argument that's pretty well acted, and during their fight they basically called the dad a big old pussy that plays with 80s toys. He returns back to his man cave and sits down to play a game of Cursor, which was the original name for this film. The game loads up and it explains the rules to the audience by showing the on-screen text matching his actions, and also shows it has the ability to affect reality, plus it even pranks him. We're then introduced the horror aspect with the choice of his son's tongue or his wife's ears. He tries to get away but swiftly finds out the consequences, then cut to black. He emerges from his room to find his wife with the severed tongue of her son, then cut to the computer to reinforce the idea that the game caused this to happen. This is a bad opening because it's a good short film, and that's what I imagine Choose or Die started as. We have a main character which is an actor that isn't very famous but still recognisable, on a set that looks easy to hire as it's just someone's home. The plot has a 3-act structure which gives you enough information to understand the horror elements and crucially the rules of the world, with a payoff that actually has a setup. It was also made by filmmakers that usually do short horror films, and I DM'd the writer asking if it started as a short film and he said yes, which is pretty good evidence. But here's what I think happened for the rest of the film. This whole opening was made so they tried to sell it off somewhere and they got the attention of Netflix, who have made short films before. Netflix then wanted them to make it full length because the concept ticks the gamer box. Netflix is all about the marketing, which is probably why the lead character is now a young black woman, and it's probably why Asa Butterfield is in it, since he draws attention. That's partially why I watched it, because I see a good actor and that acts as a stamp of approval for quality in a way. Plus 80s nostalgia is still fairly big, especially with the release of Stranger Things Season 4. The film is also set in America because Netflix wants to reach a wider audience, because I guess Americans can't understand English, and that would explain why the accents sound a bit thicker later on.
Fucking lucky I didn't call the fucking police on you.
You saved my life.
If this is how the filming started, then that makes some of the later problems a bit more understandable. The contrived way of them playing the game makes sense because they've already used the person who just likes playing old game setup. Then the reincorporation of this character may be due to the fact you can't just have an intro with someone recognisable and then not bring them back, especially if they survive the horror. But this is just a theory, and I thought it would be rude to ask the writer if this all took place because he seems like a nice guy. The final level of Choose or Die is a fight between an old man and a lame girl. Then in the typical style of this film, the game fucks with them. Whenever one of them hurts the other, the person who attacks gets injured, which you would have thought means the fight is going to last 7 seconds. You cut yourself to confirm the other person gets injured, then immediately gut yourself with the knife like a sad samurai. No, instead you have to watch 4 people failing one after the other. Fails to stab herself, fails to shoot her from a meter away, fails to walk up to her and shoot her in the eye causing an instant death, fails to do anything quick enough, fails to kill himself instantly, fails to come up with a good plan of attack.
I'm the fucking hero.
Kayla then jumps into the water carrying a statue so it holds her at the bottom of the pool. But if you really wanted to drown yourself, you could have just jumped in and started inhaling the water like your stupid brother, which this is obviously a false callback to. She then somehow manages to win the fight even though her throat got slit. And I've played enough games and watched enough films to know a slit throat means you've won. Even if she didn't die instantly, it's still quicker than drowning. If I held someone underwater and then slit their throat, nobody would say they drowned. They'd say, why the hell did you slit that person's throat? I'm calling the police. Hello? Who are you? I'm the one the game has chosen. Yes. Yes. Kayla manages to survive and the game recognises her as a worthy player, rewarding her with the ability to code in curse. We then get the speech from earlier about how the curse works, just in case the senile old man who somehow managed to get out of the dementia ward and stumble into a room with Netflix on a TV, who then tripped, falling onto the remote which first paralyses him, then starts playing Choose or Die, meaning he's forced to watch it, even though it's not the kind of film he'd put on. The speech is there so that poor old man isn't confused about what's happening. Kayla then programs a game for Lance who we should all remember exists, and in the typical tradition of Choose or Die, his game doesn't really give him a choice. Do you want to pay for what is implied to be a very cheap prostitute? Yes. Can the prostitute dominate you? Yes. Needles in the face. She then starts preaching about how the cursed suffer and the cursor prospers, and sometimes you need to sacrifice a life to save another, which is a little bit of a weird stance for the supposed hero of the film. We then get a flashback of Otis giving his knockoff Spider-Man speech, which solidifies the film's stance on vigilantism. Yeah, it was a good thing when Lance was killed, and that man who was horrible to his family, and that woman who was working in a diner was hospitalised, and my mum who was also hospitalised. Yeah, it was good that they suffered. Kayla then gets a call from that guy from the VHS tape, and in a crazy twist, it turns out he's the head of that stupid company that kept getting forced into the plot, because it's destiny. For some reason, he's surprised she beat the game, which of course she did, as barely anything happened to her. She fought a child and an old man, and I guess she strained her fingers typing in who she wants to get fucked over. Why did he even make it possible for her to win? Because surely that means he runs the risk of her coming after him.
Who will suffer next?
You? Because you put my mum in hospital, you utter knobhead?
Only people who deserve it.
Yes! It's ended on a tease, meaning we can get a sequel. Then we can start the Choose or Die cinematic universe where we just repeat the same few ideas over and over, raking in trillions, and we'll bring in some more social messages like, it's okay to sexually assault criminals if it saves a baby, or something like that. Who cares if it's stupid? We'll release it on Netflix, so when we inevitably make it shit, we'll still make it to #1, because it will always be on your front page when you go to watch something, so you can't escape it. Oh, I love profiting massively because of marketing instead of talent. It feels almost as good as making corporations suffer. Sorry, Mr. Head of Netflix, I've had a thing pop up on my computer asking if we want to make a good film. What should I say? What do you think you should say, you moron? This is the largest online streaming platform. Say no. Needles in the face.